Hi, everybody. This is Gino Vanelli. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the persons appearing on the program.
Today on Rainbow Country, Amanda Marshall and Love to Love You, Donna Summer. That and more in episode 356, so stay tuned for Gay Talk Radio right here on the Season 8 launch of Rainbow Country.
Hi, this is Emily Saliers from Indigo Girls.
Hey everyone, this is Chris Harder, porn star, burlesque performer, and the creator of Porn to Be a Star. You're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Hello and welcome to the Season 8 launch of Rainbow Country. As I like to call it, a little gay radio show working to give voice to the LGBT community and beyond. And as always, I am your tour guide through Rainbow Country. I'm producer and host, Mark Tara. By the way, Rainbow Country originates from CIUT-FM in Toronto and now proudly in syndication on 12 outlets across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. The Yukon, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, the east coast of Canada and Newfoundland, Ontario, even down to Buffalo, New York, and online. Well, thanks to you tuning in, streaming, downloading, but ultimately listening. Together we continue to build Rainbow Country into a nationally syndicated gay radio show, a #1 LGBT podcast on Podomatic.com's gay and lesbian chart, as well as being recognized as Canada's #2 LGBT podcast on Feedspot.com. So today I catch up with Canadian artist Amanda Marshall, and we talk about her new music, her new album, Heavy Lifting, her touring with Whitney Houston, and where she's been for the past almost 20 years. Also, on this episode, you know her, you love her, the First Lady of Love, the Queen of Disco, Donna Summer. So in 2012, we lost Donna to lung cancer. Well, some 11 years after her passing, there's a new documentary out right now, Love to Love You, Donna Summer. A documentary that talks about her rise to fame, her bouts with depression, as well as what happened in the 80s with her comments about God creating Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, and the fallout around that comment. This documentary, I have to say, is unapologetic when telling the story of Donna Summer. And who better to tell her story than one of her daughters, Brooklyn Sudano, an accomplished actress in her own right, who starred in the ABC hit sitcom My Wife and Kids. Brooklyn Sudano co-directs Love to Love You, Donna Summer with Academy Award-winning filmmaker Roger Ross Williams. Later on in the hour, I chat with Brooklyn Sudano. Plus, in Hour 2, music from LGBT artists, independent artists, voices that we've come to know and love in classic disco, classic 80s, classic house, and on this episode I'm featuring some Amanda Marshall, some queer electronic, plus 17 minutes of love. All that lies ahead as we start Journey 356 through Rainbow Country, and it being June, Gay Pride Month, I thought I'd spotlight flag raising. In this case, raising the Progress Rainbow flag at Toronto Police Headquarters on June 1st. We'll hear from LGBTQ2S Liaison Officer, Sergeant Robert Chevalier, Superintendent and Unit Commander 51 Division, Christopher Kirkpatrick. But first to speak, Sergeant Henry Dick.
I have to say that getting here has been no small feat. It has been years of tireless work of building relationships both internally between our 2S LGBTQ members and management, and also externally with a community that has not always been best served by us. Some people have told me that a flag raising is political. That's always somewhat mystified me, since rainbow people can be found in all political parties, from liberal to conservative to log cabin Republicans. But if political means taking a moment out of each year to respect the diversity amongst us when others get the spotlight all year long, I'll be political. Some people have told me that a flag raising is tokenism. It won't solve all the problems of kids in schools and relationships between the police and the community. I quite agree, and will gladly wait to see all the other things that you plan to do. But in the meantime, let me just say, when I see a pride flag flying, I see a part of myself. For the brief few seconds that I look at it each day, it makes me feel okay. It tells me that I'm supported even though I may not be the same as you, and that this is a safe place for me to be. I can only imagine how I would have felt as a child or as a new police officer when I got hired, had I ever seen a pride flag flying. I'm sure I would have had a better self-image of myself now. So if that's tokenism, I'll take your token. Some people have told me that there is no discrimination anymore, and that participating in a flag raising is virtue signaling. By all means, tell that to my friend, Dr. Adrian Yuko in Uganda, who I spoke to yesterday by phone, a human rights lawyer who defends 2S LGBTQ people, who now tries to figure out what to do in a country after legislation passed this week that makes the penalty for being gay in Uganda life imprisonment or even death for so-called aggravated cases of homosexuality. Please tell that to the increasing number of victims of hate crimes in Western countries, including our own. And by all means, please tell it to the neo-Nazis I stared down in this city just a few weeks ago at a protest for a community event, who yelled the most vile anti-Semitic and homophobic comments I've heard in my life. Virtue signaling? I'd say we need a little more virtue. Lastly, I want to say that I recognize what a privilege it is to be able to put this flag up when so many others can't. I want to say thank you, first of all, to our unit commander, Superintendent Kirkpatrick, and our 2IC, Inspector Caitlin Saramatofsky, who are both with us, supporting us today, and have been extremely supportive at all times of our community. I want to also acknowledge and thank the Chief and his command team, and also the Toronto Police Association. On behalf of all of the 2S LGBTQ employees of the Toronto Police Service, thank you for your ongoing support. I'd now like to invite up Sergeant Rob Chevalier to speak on behalf of the Community Partnerships and Engagement Unit.
Thank you all for being here today. Today we raise the Intersex Progress Pride flag here at 51 Division and across this wonderfully diverse city. When we do this small but meaningful act, it sends the clear message that we stand against discrimination and in support of the services 2S LGBTQ+ members and the communities we serve. Our work and our learning and our commitment to building strong relationships continues, and we thank the community for their part in helping us in this growing journey. I want to thank the Chief of Police, DEMQ, and the command team, as well as the strong leadership team, Kathleen Saramatofsky and Christopher Kirkpatrick here at 51 Division, for their ongoing support. The Pride flag has been on display at police headquarters since May 17th and will continue to fly until the end of Pride Month. I also want to thank and pay tribute to those who came before me. If it were not for their strength and courage to stand up, to dare to be themselves, I would not be here today. I also commit to doing my part to continue to advocate for those who felt left behind. On behalf of the Toronto Police Service, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy Pride Month. Thank you all. I'll welcome the Unit Commander of 51 Division, Superintendent Christopher Kirkpatrick.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Chief Myron Demke to welcome you to 51 Division today as we raise the Pride flag. As we look out to the month ahead, there's three things that are very important to us within the policing community as we work towards serving our community. Number one is listening to our communities, listening to what's happening out there. And as we've heard from other officers speak today, we know there are places where currently being who you are is not accepted. We have to learn from each other. We have to continue with trust and building that trust in the community. And we would always hope that today, this is a symbol of our continued trust and, more importantly, our continued desire to serve the community. Thank you, everyone, and we hope to have a fantastic June and a fantastic Pride. And thank you to everyone who attended here today and our special guests, because we are very cognizant that there are still some places, even here, that you can't be who you are. So thank you for having the bravery of coming today, and we are so very, very happy that you made that journey. Thank you.
In the 60s, before the internet, to find each other, queer people needed to actually get together in real space and real time. Since most places didn't tolerate our kind, depending on where you were, your options could be limited. Large cities might have a few specialized commercial spaces, but in the absence of those, it was basically public washrooms, parks, or house parties. They all had their downsides. Commercial spaces required you to spend money, and that's one of the reasons why they were mostly for men. Even in places as big as Toronto, there was seldom more than one lesbian bar at a time. Lesbians earned about 60% of the male wage and probably had more dependents. The economy just wasn't there. The old adage was, gay men go to restaurants, lesbians hold potlucks. Washrooms in parks were also pretty much boys only and could be dangerous, plus parks in the Canadian winter, not so good. You could freeze your willy off. House parties, you needed to know somebody, or know somebody who knew somebody, and so on, and be invited. In terms of commercial life, Montreal had led the pack, developing a Sin City reputation during Prohibition in the US in the 1930s. And where there's sin, there's always a place for us. Toronto the Good and Vancouver took a bit longer, but in 1974, Toronto had enough anonymity and a critical mass to produce a small commercial scene. At first, it was mostly straight bars where we were tolerated in a corner as long as we behaved. Next came a few straight-owned venues that served gay clientele. By the mid-70s, a new class of gay entrepreneurs emerged and started to open up on Church Street where rents were cheaper. But not everybody lived in Toronto or Montreal. In smaller centres, where businesses couldn't meet community needs, the lesbian and gay liberation movement of the 70s came up with a new model. Defy economics and do it for ourselves. We might not have a lot of capital, but we did have free labour. For example, the Lesbian Organization of Toronto established a non-profit community centre in a ramshackle old Victorian house in 1977. It held dances and brunches and drop-ins and provided meeting spaces and a coffee house and hosted a phone line for a whole generation of women. Loot, as it was known, was following a strategy already developed elsewhere. In Saskatoon, the Zodiac Friendship Society opened its community centre in 1973. Edmonton and Calgary soon followed suit. HALO, the Homophile Association of London, Ontario, started in 1974, and the Halifax Gay Alliance for Equality first began running dances in the Turret in 76, and later turned that into a community centre. By the end of the decade, there was a network of lesbian and gay groups providing community spaces in dozens of medium-sized centres across Canada, volunteer-run and community-controlled. This is Tim McCaskill, a gay liberation dinosaur from another planet and author of Queer Progress.
Hi, this is Michael Anthony Alago, music executive, photographer, author, and you are listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, Amanda Marshall.
The man horn me. So I don't care how hard he wag his tail. He ain't getting no treat. I ain't no dog catcher.
Is that your dog doing a trick? He caught my scent and he sniffed my hand and he took a lick. Is that your dog? He wants a bone. Mama, he dug under your fence and followed me all the way home. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve, he'll eat it. Put it away before you hurt yourself. Tell him go on, shoot, boy, beat it. Quit scratching at my door, this ain't the pound. Not gonna pet you, 'cause I ain't the dog catcher.
Amanda Marshall, hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I have to say, thank you so much for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you so much for this. I am a big fan. Okay, let's start here. 1995, Amanda Marshall, self-titled. 1999, Tuesday's Child. Love that title. 2001, Everybody's Got a Story, Girl. Everybody's got a story. 2023, Heavy Lifting. This is your new album, the first single, I Hope She Cheats. This is the new single off of this new record. My understanding is a shopping trip brought this song to your attention. What is the story behind this song and how it came to your attention? I Hope She Cheats.
Okay, before I tell you this story, I got to tell you, damn, I could listen to you read the titles of my albums all day long. This is fantastic. You have the golden pipes. You could read the phone book. First of all, I am delighted to be here. I'm really, 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 really happy to be virtually meeting you. I will tell you the story of how I Hope She Cheats came to be. For those who don't know, I Hope She Cheats was written by Marsha Ambrosius, and Marsha is a gifted, fantastic songwriter from the UK. She was one half of Floetry in the sort of early aughts with her partner. And then she broke off and made a solo record. And this song was on her solo record, I think in 2011. I heard the song by accident several years later. I was out shopping and it just stopped me cold. I heard it over the PA in a store. And the specificity of it was just hilarious to me. I Hope She Cheats on You with a basketball player. It was such it was vicious. It was really brutal, but also really, really funny. And it made me laugh. And I wrote this arrangement of it, which is quite different than her original arrangement, quite quickly. It just spoke to me. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you hear a song and it just really, you just sort of feel an ownership or a kinship with the song. And I wrote the arrangement and then I wrote to her. And I told her that I had done this and, did she mind? And she heard it. And thankfully, she really liked it. So I'm delighted with the way it turned out. And it turned out to be sort of the catalyst that jump-started the rest of the record. The rest of the record was sort of written, but it really made me, as a writer, re-examine what I was doing. And it changed the whole trajectory of the rest of the album, which is why I wanted to put it out as the lead single.
So 2023, Heavy Lifting, your first album that you produced, is my understanding. How would you describe the sound of this album, the sonic landscape of this album? How would you describe it?
I think it's definitely a rock and roll record. And what I mean by that is that I lean towards the roll part of rock and roll, which I think is the most important part. It is the R&B kind of blues background that makes rock and roll really what it is. The Rolling Stones have done that very successfully and obviously have embraced it throughout their career. And it was something that has always been a huge part of what I do. And I think it's probably the thing that, to use a word I probably shouldn't, that saved me from tipping over into kind of hard rock territory, which was never something that really interested me all that much. I think people have conflated rock with rock and roll. They're two very different things. Rock is that real kind of predominantly North American kind of, white guy rock and, rock records. Those are not the records that I've ever aspired to make, and they're not the records that I make. It's a kind of a more groove-based thing that I've always done. And the task has always been to marry kind of storytelling songwriting with an underlying groove that is kind of true to where I came from. I came up through kind of blues clubs and, aren't singing old R&B songs. And that's really where I live.
Grossman's Tavern in Toronto? Sudano Avenue with Jeff Healey?
Sudano Avenue, baby. Yep. That was somebody asked me the other day if you could, name like the most important small club that you've ever played. There was the Troubadour in LA, which is hugely famous, and Grossman's. And Grossman's I started singing in when I was probably 15 or 16. And I remember the most important part of it to me was that like everyone I knew was going to come, like all my friends from high school and the people that I had a little part-time job, and they all came, and my mom and dad. And it was such a cool club. It was such a feather in your cap to play there because you knew the history of the club. And I don't know that there are that many experiences out there for emerging singer-songwriters anymore like Grossman's.
So 2001, Everybody's Got a Story, your last studio album, 2023, Heavy Lifting. This is your current studio album. There's a number of years in between. Why the pause? What happened?
So in 2002, I finished the touring cycle for my third album, Everybody's Got a Story, and I came off the road. And the short answer is I fired my manager, and it triggered a decade and a half of legal wrangling. It was basically sort of a shakedown that just lasted for a really, really long time. And I wouldn't capitulate, and he wouldn't capitulate, and it just kept going and going and going. And eventually, it resolved in my favor, and I was really, really, happy about it. But even at that particular time, even by the time it resolved, there's a real kind of there's a chronic distraction element that happens, and you sort of internally start to lose momentum. And for me personally, there started to be a real question as to whether or not I was going to make music publicly again. I was always writing and recording, and I always had this record, or what turned out to be this record, in my back pocket. I always kind of was pulling it out and putting it away. But there was a question as to whether or not I was going to release it. And I keep telling this story, but in 2017, a friend of mine really kind of, gave me a kick and said, you're too young to retire and you're too good not to try. You really should, you shouldn't waste your gift. And that kind of woke me up and made me sort of get serious about putting the rest of the album together. It's really funny because I was just remembering, as I'm telling that story, that same guy was the same guy who sort of held an intervention in 2002 and was like, you really need to slow down and examine the company that you're keeping. So he was also kind of responsible for getting me out of the music business. So it's ironic.
So I think it's fair to say that over the last few years, you've been through a lot professionally. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, I was watching a documentary, and you were in it. 2017's Whitney, Can I Be Me? 2017's Whitney, Can I Be Me? In 1999, you toured with Whitney Houston, I believe, on her European tour. You opened up for her?
We did. We sure did.
So here's what I'm interested in knowing. Where you are today with everything that you've been through and looking back on those memories, on those times, what comes to mind when you look back today?
What comes to mind is that I was, first of all, like everybody, I worshipped Whitney Houston as a child. And I don't think it is genre specific. I don't think it is race specific. I don't think it is gender specific. Everybody worshipped Whitney Houston. She was the absolute best of her generation. And when we got the chance to tour with her, when the offer came, my exact words were, whatever you have to do to get me on this tour, do it. Whatever we have to do, I will do it. However short the set has to be, I will do it, because I wanted to stand on the side of the stage and watch her sing every night. And to have been able to do that was in and of itself a privilege. It's funny that you spotted us in that documentary, because Whitney's death was a galvanizing personal moment for me. Obviously, she and I were not close, but we were on sort of these weird parallel tracks at that particular time. She was that was kind of the last big, really, really successful tour that she did. And to have been able to do it with her, and to see her operate and just to see her sing up close was hugely a huge turning point for me. It was a huge change for me. What comes to mind immediately about the tour is there was a night close to the end of the tour when I was standing on stage singing a song called If I Didn't Have You, which was a big bell off the second record. And there's a whistle. The song starts with a whistle. And because it's difficult to whistle on command, and because we were playing these huge arenas, we had the whistle on tape. So I was faking it. I was sort of faking it at the beginning of the song. Sorry, spoiler alert. But so I turned around to get a drink of water while the whistle was happening, and I looked up, and Whitney was standing beside me. She had come out on stage during the song, and she walked to the microphone and introduced me and thanked me for participating in the tour. And I'm not a particularly, I'm not sort of a wilting lily, but I sort of went a little bit weak. I think I sort of left my body for a moment, and I was just so stunned to see her standing beside me. And then she turned around and she hugged me. And as she hugged me, she leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Damn, I love this song." And that was, it was something I will carry, for the rest of my life. It was just such an odd, but such an amazing moment that people do not get those kinds of moments in life ever. And I was so shocked and really thrilled. It was just amazing.
Well done. So here's something that you and I share in common. I am multiracial. I am part Black, part Irish, part West Indian. I was born in the Caribbean in Trinidad. I believe your mom was born there too.
She sure was.
So is this a fair statement to make about yourself, Amanda Marshall? I'm a double agent on my mama's side.
I think that's probably fair. It's funny. Double Agent is the second song I had written on that subject. The first appeared on Tuesday's Child. It was a song called Shades of Grey. And I always kind of felt weird about Double Agent because I felt we were returning to that even though I knew that it was it was interesting subject matter and it was relevant to me. I always kind of felt like we sort of covered this. Do we really need to cover it again? But that song was so meaningful to so many people. And I realized that it is, it was worth talking about again because it reached a whole different audience by then. It was a different group of people who were talking to me about that song than had spoken to me previously about Shades of Grey.
That's from 2001's Everybody's Got a Story.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 2001. We're in 2023. And I think that song and what it's saying and the message that it's saying is it's more relevant today in 2023. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my dad actually said that to me about a month ago. He was like, I was listening to that song and it's amazing how relevant it is however many years later, 22 years on. It's just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. Elton John, we spoke about Whitney Houston. Elton John was, I think, a pivotal moment for you on the Rosie O'Donnell show. He talked about you and he suggested that you guys release Dark Horse. So what I'm interested in knowing, were you guys originally planning on releasing Dark Horse as a single, or did Elton John sort of you guys took his advice?
Well, that's a good question. The honest answer is I don't know, but I will say that,
Because it's a great song and it's an amazing video.
It is a great song. And however we got there, I think what Elton was saying was that he thought it should be the next single in the US, because I think Birmingham was out then. And I think, I can't remember what single they released next. I can't remember if it was Dark Horse or Beautiful Goodbye. It might've been Beautiful Goodbye. But the thing about that whole moment with Elton was, you're talking about how pivotal it was for me, and it was, but it wasn't a pivotal personal moment for me. And I think the reason why was because, first of all, I didn't know when it happened. I was on the road and I was really busy, and there wasn't social media back then. So I didn't find out about it until days later. He called me about a week after. I was in a restaurant in Whistler, and he called me in the restaurant, and the maitre d' came running to the table, like ashen and sweating, and saying, there's a phone call for you. So I answered the phone, not knowing it was him. And he just called to sort of give me a heads up, because I can't remember if, I was going to be on the Rosie O'Donnell show. And he said, I just wanted to give you a heads up. I mentioned you on the show. To be fair, that is his practice. He is and was a guy who consumes emerging music. He is very, careful and conscientious about buying new music and consuming new music on the day it comes out. In those days, all the new releases were on Tuesday in the US. So he would go out every Tuesday, buy all of them and listen to them. And Dark Horse happened to really reach him, and he really felt strongly about that song. But he's done that for other people too. He's talked about other emerging artists. I think I was just sort of the first, and it was a galvanizing moment for everyone around me, because it was, he had a huge platform, and it was very, very flattering to have been chosen by him.
Here's my last question for you, Amanda Marshall. Whether someone listens to one of your albums or a single on the radio, or they see you live in concert, what do you hope your audience comes away with after they've experienced Amanda Marshall? What do you hope your audience comes away with?
I hope they come away with a feeling that that of the sort of the authenticity and honesty in my performance. I think there's a lot that we do now. We've always done it, but more now than ever, that we do to sort of manipulate what we consume. Pictures are manipulated, and every magazine cover is retouched, and music is retouched, and art is retouched. And I'm not even going to get into this whole situation with AI and, the idea that we consume all of this artificiality, I think, in art now. And what I really hope that people understand about me and about the music that I make is that it really is an authentic expression, not only of the subject matter, but in performance. It's funny, the other night we were talking about Whitney, and I was like, man, one of the things that I cannot get past with Whitney when I watch other people is you can't trust a singer who don't sweat, right? No matter how effortless it was for Whitney, she sweat, right? And that to me is because it was authentic. It was who she was. She was a church singer, and she could never ever lose that. And that to me, authenticity and sort of honesty in performance and the ability to really do it is everything. And I hope that that's what people kind of come away with when they hear these songs, when they watch me perform, when they're listening to this right now, is the idea that they're consuming something sort of real and authentic.
Well said. Well said. Amanda Marshall, well said, well done, well recorded. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Mark. What part of the Caribbean were you born in?
In Trinidad.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, what I meant was, what part of Trinidad were you born in?
In I think near Port of Spain, but Barataria.
Yeah. You're not far from where my mom was. Not far. Trinity's rule.
Amanda Marshall's new album, Heavy Lifting, drops June 9th. She's also on a cross-Canada tour, which kicks off in Moncton, New Brunswick, June 11th. For all things Marshall, including what cities she'll be playing in, simply visit amandamarshall.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Poirier, Canadian champion in ice dance and 3-time Olympian, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Terra.
What's up, Canada? This is Lauren from Monstrosa. We're an all-girl alternative metal band from Toronto, and I'm here to invite you to a Pride concert on Friday, June 9th at Toronto's legendary El Macombo. This show features all local queer alt artists and is a single release concert for our song, I Like Girls Like You Do, which is all about bisexual and lesbian solidarity. There will be live performances from us, Fura, Tequila, Kingdom of Birds, and Power Walk. Plus DJ Angel Fruit will be closing the night with a dance party. So if you're in the Toronto area on Friday, June 9th, come on down to the El Macombo for a gay old time. For more information, visit elmacombo.com.
Hi, my name is Joanne Vanicola, and I'm an actor and a writer, and I was first on Rainbow Country with Mark Tara on discussing the massacre at Pulse Club in Orlando. I realized how important it was for our community to have a radio station, specifically for our issues, to talk about people in the LGBTQ community and to provide an outlet for our stories, to discuss our politics, culture, and give voice to the issues that matter to us. And of course our artists and the things that we do globally and talk about culture. And without people like Mark Tara providing a space for this with a radio show like this, then we wouldn't have that voice. So support, tune in. Thank you.
When did gay pride become just pride?
I can answer that for you, and I can answer what a big turnaround was, and it's a very simple thing. Corporatism is when gay pride became pride. As soon as we got corporate sponsors, as soon as we had the approval of the corporations around us, oh my God, the beer company's going to sponsor it, and they're going to give us a float, and look at the telephone company's going to do something, and someone else is going to do something.
But drop the gay.
Yeah, drop the gay and include everyone. And I always thought, why should we include everyone? This is a gay pride celebration. It is for people who are in a sexual minority. We had something that was for us to make people recognize who we are and to acknowledge that we actually existed.
Award-winning playwright and author Brad Fraser reflects on some important gay history. The time frame, the 1990s. When gay pride becomes pride, with the introduction of corporate sponsorships.
Hi, I'm Eric Radford, Olympic and world champion figure skater, pianist, and composer, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.
Up next, actress, director, and producer Brooklyn Sudano talks about her directorial debut, Love to Love You, Donna Summer.
The last few days, I definitely over the weekend, it was a very emotional few days for me, but the response has just been so fantastic from top to bottom, from family, from old band members, from random people, friends of friends that are oh my gosh, I got an email from Israel when it, that I needed to watch, so it's just been really great. So, so that's been really nice to finally have it out there and people be responding in such a great way. So,
do you love somebody? Does everybody here have somebody to love? No? Well, love me for right now, okay?
The audience would get completely uncontrollable. People would begin to rip their clothes off and throw them on the stage, bras, underwear. I didn't know it was going to be that racy.
I remember when I Feel Love came on at Studio 54, you just stopped in your tracks. You thought, what is this? People screamed. It just went on and on and on, and you didn't want it to stop.
I have a secret life. You're looking at me, but what you see is not what I am.
Who is she?
My approach to singing, I approach it as an actress. I don't approach it as a singer. And it's really acting. I'm not trying to be me. I came out with Georgia with the which just changed the face of music for a while.
She was the first female Black artist to ever have a video on MTV.
She was complicated and struggled with her fame.
Donna was trying to navigate being a mother.
And the responsibility of that and the weight of that is immense. There's too much fire in me.
A lot of her life revolved around privacy and secrecy. We would find out things by reading newspaper articles that they had clipped out and hidden in places.
Sing it loud.
She works hard for the money. So hard for it, honey. I work hard for my money, so you better treat me right. All right.
Your creativity is a never-ending process.
The process is the key.
Brooklyn Sudano, hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
I have to say thank you for being here to have your voice, your story be heard by the LGBT community and beyond. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Especially to talk about this documentary, Love to Love You, Donna Summer. This is the documentary that you co-directed along with Oscar-winning filmmaker Roger Ross Williams. The documentary is about the life of music legend Donna Summer, who is your mom.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes, a little crazy.
Let's start here about this documentary and what this and let's like the A side. Put a musical spin on it. What is this documentary about? What would you say what you're getting at in this documentary?
Well, I think the foundational point of the film, or one of them, I should say, is really trying to give people a full perspective on who Donna Summer, the persona, like who she really was, and just the layers and the complexity of the artist and the woman and the mother. I think it is a very intimate approach, and so even with the music, we're using the music that people are very familiar with in a different way and using it as a part of the storytelling, as opposed to just saying, oh, okay, there's this song, that song, or whatever,
Okay, so the flip side, the B side, what this documentary is not about. There are no talking heads. There are no music experts. Talk to me about the approach that yourself and fellow director Roger took when it comes to telling your mom's story. Talk to me about this particular approach, because essentially the only people that appear on screen are family members.
I think that wasn't something we immediately decided. We spoke to, this was a pandemic project. So we were doing a lot of these interviews over Zoom. And from the very beginning, even actually before the pandemic, Roger and I had discussed about doing audio only interviews. So we knew we were going to do that. And the pandemic just kind of solidified that choice because, and that choice was made because we really wanted people to feel immersed in the moment. We didn't want to take them out of the moment that was being described or away from the real intimate nature of what was happening. And so we just felt that, to try to really get people to be whatever beat that they were in, whether they could really just hear and see in real time what was happening in that moment and not be taken to the present day so much and take them out of it. So that was one choice in terms of the audio only interviews. In terms of really stripping down the voices, we did interview a lot of different celebrities and well-known people and music historians. And when it came down to it, I think we realized that the strength of this film and the strength of honestly having me be one of the directors on the film was telling it from a more intimate approach. And that hopefully my mother's performances and artistry would reveal itself to the audience just by the nature of what they were. And so that they would see her and see a performance and go, oh my gosh, she's got an amazing voice, or, oh, that song is so good, I can't believe she wrote that. That would be clear without having somebody necessarily describe or say that to you. To essentially let the art speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. What inspired you to want to tell your mother's story? Because I would think that would be, how do I do this? With such a huge worldwide personality.
There definitely was, okay, how do I do this? I had become a mother myself and didn't have my mom. It was a few years after my mom had passed away. And I was just really processing a lot of things. I was also doing press for a television show, and there were so many people that would come up to me when they found out who my mother was and just share their personal stories or what song they loved or her impact on their lives. And I just realized that there was so much that people still didn't maybe fully understand or appreciate about her life. And there was a lot that I wanted to really understand about how to be a woman going after my own dream, but also being a mother, and how to balance that. And so she wasn't there for me to ask those questions. And so there was all of these kind of things combined where I just felt like, it's time. It's time for people to know who she was in all of her complexity. And my father agreed, and I went on this journey, and I was so fortunate to be able to team up with Roger to do this film because our vision was completely in sync. And, it's my directorial debut, but he's an Oscar winner. So I knew that the story would be in good hands in that way. And so, I think it was just one of those things where I felt like my mom deserved for people to know who she was completely.
Mm. How did yourself and Roger get paired together originally?
We connected through our producer, Julie Goldman. And Roger had always wanted to do a music doc, and his name had popped up actually a few years prior, and we weren't able to connect at that point. And I had really loved and responded to so deeply to his work, particularly his film, Life Animated, that was so deep and so emotional and so much about family. And I really understood that, yes, he wins awards and everything, but there's a reason. Like, he really understands family, and he really has such an innate sense of storytelling that is so grounded and intimate. And that's really what I wanted to bring to the film. And so we first sat down for lunch, and he was like, "So you want to direct this?" And I was like, "I do." Because at the time I had already started just talking to people. Mm. I was lucky enough to work with Kevin McDonald, who directed the Bob Marley documentary on a television series. And he sat down with me one evening and was so generous. And he basically gave me permission. He was like, just start talking to people. And so I did. And in doing that, I realized that people felt really comfortable with me to share their stories. And they'd be like, "I can't believe I'm telling you this, but," and then they would tell me. And so I realized that it was important for me, in order to really get the authenticity and give people the permission to really tell the honest truth and the transparent truth of situations, that I needed to also be there. And thankfully, Roger and I had a very clear understanding that this film was going to be rooted in truth, that we weren't going to shy away from tougher parts of her life or mistakes, or, that we wanted to tell the whole story, and that there's power in that. And so because of that, I think we ended up with the film that we did, because we both shared a very similar vision and stuck to our guns, even when people were questioning some of the decisions.
The title, Love to Love You, Donna Summer. Was this always going to be the title?
No, that was also a journey. I think we were really, as we were putting the film together, there were a few iterations, and I think once we really understood that, yes, this is from her perspective as much as possible. She is the one really telling her story. And we were able to get audio tapes from when she was writing her book with her ghostwriter. And so we had all of these hours of my mom talking about her life. And so that really allowed us to make the film from her perspective as best as we could. And so I think once we really had that as the framework, it began to become more and more clear that this also was a love letter, in a sense, like Love to Love You, like that her life was about spreading love and sharing love through her music and through her art. And that, there was kind of like this double meaning. Yes, love to love you, because that was what shot her into stardom, but also that this was also a love letter to the audience and to those watching.
So, Brooklyn, you are an accomplished actor. You are a producer, an executive producer, a director. People may know you from the hit TV show My Wife and Kids, among others. Where do you feel most comfortable? You feel most comfortable doing what? Being in front of the camera, behind the camera? Where does Brooklyn feel most comfortable?
You know, I think that's been evolving. And I think this project, this is my directorial debut. So this is the first time that I've done something behind the camera on this level. And, you know, I've loved it. It's been really, really gratifying to be able to use my creativity and storytelling in a different way. And I think for me, it's more a matter of continuing to push myself in my storytelling. And I think whether that's in front of the camera or producing a project that I believe in or directing a project, I feel like at this point, storytelling, just good storytelling, whichever role that will take is what I'll do next.
Do you have a favorite Donna Summer song?
Oh, you know what? It's been so hard. A lot of people have been asking me that question, and it really definitely depends on my mood or what I need for the moment. But I think recently, and I think with this film coming out and the layers of the film, it really just reminds me, and I feel very connected to a song called I'm a Rainbow that was not necessarily one of her most popular songs. My father wrote the song, but it just, the lyrics behind it is like, all the colors that you see, they're all a part of me. You know, like it just feels very fitting for the moment. And that's kind of what's been stirring up inside me as of late.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which one do you love better? A song called Mimi Song or a song called Brooklyn?
Well, hey, come on now. That is an obvious choice. But I will say, you know, Mimi Song, in doing this film, that the moment where that comes up in the film almost always brought up very deep emotion in me. And so I really do love both of them. Obviously, Brooklyn, it feels like a little wink to me from my mom whenever I hear it. But I would probably say Mimi Song is a little bit better.
It's beautiful.
It is.
So fame, music, creativity, mental health, abuse. These are some of the topics, just some of the topics that your documentary talks about. By making this film about Donna Summer, about your mom, what is her journey? What has her journey taught you, is teaching you about your own journey as a creative person, as a mother, as a wife?
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons is that it is a journey, and it's not the destination of just making it to this one moment or this one place or this one success. It is really that the journey of life is a great teacher, and that in every season there is something to learn and a way to grow, the way to use your gift for good. And that, you know, the ebbs and flows of life, that if you take them and learn from them, that's what makes a successful life. And I think that is one of the biggest things that I've taken from the film when I kind of look at it in totality.
So here's my last question. Love to Love You, Donna Summer had its world premiere at the 73rd Berlin International Film Festival in Germany. Donna Summer got her professional start in hair in Germany. So here's a question. What do you hope audiences come away with after they've seen this documentary, Love to Love You, Donna Summer?
I think it's twofold. I hope that, you know, my mother never cared about awards or accolades in that way, but I do think she cared about being respected as an artist. And so for me, it was really important to show that my mother was more than just kind of this disco queen persona, that she was really an artist. She was a creative genius in her own way, and that her life was about that creation and using those creations to spread love and joy and healing. And then I think in terms of the film is to extend that legacy of love and joy and healing. And I think we tackled some of the tougher things and really tried to address those things in a very transparent way to say, listen, if we can do this in our family and in our journey, then maybe you can do it in your own. And so, I hope those are the takeaways for people, that they're able to, love the music and love my mom and be able to understand her role in music history, but also that they can take the family journey and apply it to their own life.
And she has made music history time and time again. And I love the very end, the credits section.
I know, so fun.
It's so fun.
Well, that gives you a sense of her real personality, and I think it was nice to end the film because, the film kind of ends in a very emotional way to lighten it up and remind you of this is who she was. She just was a light and she was fun and funny. And they're great moments.
Brooklyn Sudano, thank you for your time. Well said, well done, well made, well filmed.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Do you love somebody? Does everybody here have somebody to love? No? Well, love me for right now, okay?
The audience would get completely uncontrollable. People would begin to, rip their clothes off and throw them on the stage, bras, underwear. I didn't know it was going to be that racy.
I remember when I Feel Love came on at Studio 54, you just stopped in your tracks. You thought, what is this? People screamed. It just went on and on and on, and you didn't want it to stop.
I have a secret life. You're looking at me, but what you see is not what I am.
Who is she?
My approach to singing, I approach it as an actress. I don't approach it as a singer. And it's really acting. I'm not trying to be me. I came out with Georgia with the which just changed the face of music for a while.
She was the first female Black artist to ever have a video on MTV.
She was complicated and struggled with her fame.
Donna was trying to navigate being a mother.
And the responsibility of that and the weight of that is immense. There's too much fire in me.
A lot of her life revolved around privacy and secrecy. We would find out things by reading newspaper articles that they had clipped out and hidden in places.
Sing it loud.
She works hard for the money. So hard for it, honey. I work hard for my money, so you better treat me right. All right.
Your creativity is a never-ending process. The process is the key.
Love to Love You, Donna Summer is out now on HBO and Crave. For more on Brooklyn Sudano, you can find her on socials. Simply search Brooklyn Sudano. By the way, here's some Donna Summer trivia. She sold well over 100 million albums worldwide. With 5 Grammy Awards and 18 nominations, she holds the distinction of being the only artist to win awards in 4 different genres: dance, gospel, rock, and R&B.
Bill 7, to ban discrimination in employment, government services, and housing, based on a person's sexual orientation, was up for a vote at Queen's Park. Most NDP and Liberal MPPs supported the bill, but without some progressive Conservative legislators backing, a divisive split could rack the province. 4 PCs decided to break party ranks to vote with their conscience and support Bill 7. Cabinet Minister and MPP Dennis Timbrell did it to show solidarity for his beloved brother, the well-known drag queen Rusty Ryan. And for me, a gay politician who was not yet out, I had to take a stand. We were known as the Gang of 4. I'm former Cabinet Minister and MPP Phil Gillies. The date, December 2nd, 1986, when LGBT rights came to Ontario.
And just like that, this little gay journey through Rainbow Country has come to an end. For the full 2-hour episode, simply head over to marktara.com, where everything is connected, and hit the archives banner. To keep up to date with the show, check out the socials at Mark Tara. The podcast is available on all major platforms, including Audible.com and iHeartRadio. Finally, I want to take this time to thank you for taking your time to be with me. Remember, despite all the craziness in the world these days, know this, that we are living in days of making dreams come true, so believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you.
Hi, this is Amanda Marshall, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mark Tara.